Now that we've got an article and A side that are floating away from each other, it's time to create a section to make them sit next to each other. So in Dreamweaver, you've got this gap and the footer's been allowed to float up. We want to remove it, and we want to push that footer all the way down to the edge of the page. The reason we want to do this is because the footer shouldn't be up here. The article should be over to the left, and the article and A side should be fluid with the header. On your coding, you've got article and A side here. They're two separate boxes being allowed to float to the left and the right. I like to compare this to rubber duckies in a bathtub. You put two rubber duckies in a bathtub next to each other, what's the first thing they're going to do? Float away. We need to make sure that they can't float away, and we're going to do that by putting them in a box. That box is going to contain them and not allow them to float off to the edge of the page. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the lines that have article and A side inside my source code. I'm going to tab those bad boys in because I'm going to put them inside of another box, which I'm going to use a section. The section tag is going to open on line 12 just below the header closing, and I'm going to take the close section tag, and what I can actually do is I can click and I can drag and I can drop it wherever I want to. I'm going to drop it below my A side. So you've got opening section, article open close, A side open close, and I'm going to hit enter right here to close it. And now I should have lines 12 through 17. And what's really cool is you can hit this little button right here to collapse and expand it. I'm going to collapse this, and then I'm going to be able to go ahead and bring it back out for the article on the A side. I'm going to then go ahead to my Lego styles, and it's time to be able to stylize this. I'm going to create a section. That section's question is going to be, what are the width and the height? How am I going to make these two sit next to each other? Well, together the A side and the article have a width of 800 pixels. So if I give the section a width of 800 pixels, is that going to force them together? Yep. Your article and your A side can only float as far as it's allowed to within whatever it's contained inside of. Right now it's contained inside a box that is only 800 pixels wide called a section, so meaning it can only float as far as you want it to. If you made it 900 pixels and you refreshed, you would see there would be a tiny little gap because now they're allowed to float away from each other and their widths don't take up that space. Making it 800 pixels, and I give it a background color of red. And the reason I would say give it a background color is so that way you can see it. And at this point, if you refresh, you shouldn't be able to see your section. If you make your article back to the color of white as a background color, which is what you were required to do, you still wouldn't see it. But the section, if it's too big, would be able to see that red pop through if the footer wasn't floating up. So we've got a width of 800, a background color of red. I'm going to add a height. The reason you need a height is to push that footer down. How far down? 300 pixels, because that's how tall your A side is. If your A side is 300 pixels and your footer gets pushed down outside of your section, you should be able to now see this big red box. And the reason you're seeing a red box is because that's your section. You've got a section sitting back there. If I change it to green, you can see it again. The reason I want to do this is because I want you to note that our article doesn't have a height. If it did, we wouldn't be able to see the section. So let's give it a height. How tall? Well, same as our A side, 300 pixels. Once we do that, no more red for your section or green or whatever color it is. You've now got a header, A side, article, and footer, and you're ready to roll. Don't forget to go File, Save All, so you have your saved changes and you're ready to roll with the next lesson.